Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories, where we play tales to take you away from today. Have you ever wondered what's really out there?
Why, yes, I think I have.
Then you're in for it today. We have a classic science fiction story from Dimension X that gives us a possible answer. Do you believe in ghosts, angels, and UFOs?
Stop it! You're talking crazy!
You won't think so after you hear Glados, Bianca, and Dennis's stories. Add in a tribute to parents from Tom, and that's what we have on tap this time. It all begins with this 5-minute mystery.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by Top Shelf TV Dinners. Why? Why not? For a reason no one knows, TV dinners first became a thing in 1954. Does this have anything to do with our story? Absolutely not.
Police headquarters, Inspector Harris speaking.
Inspector Harris, this is Peter Arnold.
Yeah, what can I do for you?
Inspector Harris, I think I'm going to be murdered.
What?
Just a minute ago, I received an anonymous letter threatening my life.
Have you any idea who it's from?
No.
Where are you now?
I'm at my office in the Acme building, 10th floor.
I'll be right over. Stay right where you are.
Oh, yes, Inspector. Only hurry.
Here's the place, Chief. The Acme building.
Okay.
Hope we're not too late.
Well, if we hurry, we can...
What's the matter, Chief?
Yeah. On the street, little pieces of glass.
Glass? Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Hey, Chief. Look up there. See that broken window?
That's Arnold's office. Come on, Stacy. Something's wrong up there. What's happened up here?
Who are you?
We're the police. I'm Inspector Harris, and this is my assistant, Joe Stacy.
Oh, am I glad you've come. I'm Lois Cranston, Mr. Arnold's secretary.
Yeah?
Something terrible's happened. Mr. Arnold locked himself in this office.
Yes?
And just a minute ago, I heard a shot and then glass breaking.
Come on, Stacy. Help me break down this door.
Okay.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There.
Holy Moses. Look, Chief.
Is anything wrong? And Mr. Arnold.
Will you look at that? A bullet hole right through his head.
And the window's broken. The murderer must have been standing on the roof of that building across the alleyway and fired through this window.
I'm afraid you're wrong.
What do you mean?
I mean that I'm arresting you, Miss Cranston, for the murder of Peter Arnold.
How does the inspector know that Miss Cranston murdered Peter Arnold? We'll give you the solution in just a moment. But first...
Not a bad tale, really. Again, we have everything we need to solve the case. Did you catch the slip, or is broken glass all you saw? The old saying, what goes up must come down, comes to mind, but in our case, it's out and not up. Let's go back and see.
And now, back to our story.
Mr. Arnold was shot from outside. The broken glass proves it.
Oh, that's what you've tried to make us believe. No, Miss Cranston. You shot Peter Arnold from this very room, broke the window to make it look like the shooting was done from outside, and then went out and locked the door. It would have been a perfect murder, except for one thing.
What was that?
The broken window. You see, we found the fragments of glass on the street.
Well?
If the bullet had been fired from the outside, the fragments of glass would have gone in the direction of fire. In other words, the glass would have landed inside the room, not on the street. No, Miss Cranston, you murdered Peter Arnold. I don't know why you did it, but we'll soon get the story out of you at headquarters.
I got this one straight away, and for the first time in an FFM, the police admitted that they didn't have a motive, but they were pretty sure that they would find it. This 5-Minute Mystery was brought to you by the first official TV dinner created by Swanson & Sons in 1954. The meal consisted of turkey, gravy, cornbread stuffing, sweet potatoes, and buttered peas. It sold for 98 cents. How about that?
What's that you say?
I have to open today with some news. Our radio listenership has increased this week. As many of you may or may not know, Ron's Amazing Stories is streamed on terrestrial radio each Sunday night at 11 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time in 12 cities, and on the internet at amfm247.com. The guys at the station came to terms with Amazon, and now the radio version of the show can be heard on your Amazon Echo devices. To stream AM/FM 247 on your Echo, simply say, device name, start AM/FM 24/7. My thanks to our radio producer, Jason Dowd. I received this email from Darren Bass in Macon, Georgia. This is our first letter from that great state. Darren writes, "Hello, Ron. Love the podcast, love the content, and I even like the ads. I have a question for you, and please feel free to read this on the air. I'm confused by the OTR concept. You say that you can play some things and not others. Can you help a brother out and explain? I understand copyrights, but why are only some okay? Darren." Well, Darren, we've had this question before, but no one has ever asked it quite this way. The concept is simple, but yet very complex at the same time. The copyright law of the United States grants authors and artists the exclusive right to make and sell copies of their work. These rights are subject to a time limit and expire 70 years after the author's death. In the United States, anything composed or written before January 1st, 1923 is generally considered public domain. OTR, or old-time radio's heyday, was after that. In 1976, the copyright system was revised and required all owners to re-establish the rights of their work. Some OTR shows did just that, and others did nothing. That put most of the OTR and pulp magazine material in the public domain. Some received a Creative Commons license, which allowed for the material to be used as long as it was non-commercial in nature. So as you might guess, I have to walk the thin line here and make sure I don't cross it. There are a few companies out there that try to take advantage of this and want you to believe that they indeed have the copyrights to much of the OTR and pulp content. While they do have the rights to whatever they package together, the originals still remain free to the public and can be found on the Internet Archive, which is a non-profit library of millions of free books, movies, audio, software, music, websites, and much, much more. I highly recommend that everyone head to archive.org and enjoy yourself. Heck, you will even find the first 100 shows of this podcast stored there for free. Perhaps a pretty long and boring answer to your question, Darren, but there you have it. I had a call this week from Glados Goodies, and they seem really happy with the results. In fact, they're putting together a promo code just for us so you guys can save money. Thanks for your response. Also, they're putting together a new commercial for us, but for now, here is Gladys Goodies.
I'm Gladdy, the dachshund, the face of Gladdy's Goodies. Are you worried about your pet's health? My parents were too, especially since I developed pancreatitis. They couldn't find any treats I could eat, so they made some. Our natural treats are healthy for all dogs, with and without health issues. We have lots of delicious flavors like chicken, turkey, salmon, sweet potato, beef, and more. With our homemade treats, you won't worry about the contents because they have no chemicals, fillers, or bad ingredients. Go to GladysGoodies.com now to get your fur friend a bag and pick them up some swag while you're there. You'll be glad you did. Remember, we have the treats and swag to make their tails wag. Again, that's GladysGoodies.com. Again, that's GladysGoodies.com.
Thank you, Gladys Goodies. Now, are you ready for your stories?
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our first story this time comes from Gladys Demure of Stanton, California. She is a longtime listener of the podcast and sent in this short tale called The Interrupted Funeral. My father passed away on June 18th, 2017, and he was a joker at heart. He passed away peacefully and of natural causes. However, his funeral was another matter. He asked for a closed casket and cremation. We as a family decided to have the casket at his memorial service and placed a 12x18 photo of him on top. The service was amazing. So many people got up and spoke about my father, telling stories ranging from his jokes to his community service. When it came time for his brother to speak, he stepped up to the podium and laid out his prepared notes. A strange breeze came up from nowhere and blew them all around the room. My uncle dashed after them to retrieve them, and as he did, the photo of my father fell off the casket and crashed to the ground. Mayhem ensued. Finally, after the glass was cleaned up and the notes were retrieved, my uncle returned to the pulpit. He simply said, "I don't think I'm going to read these. My brother has said everything that needs to be said." Gladys Demure, Stanton, California. Very cool, Gladys, and thank you for your story. I can honestly say that we've never had one quite like it. Do you believe in angels? Bianca Gardner from Addington, South London certainly does. Here is Bianca's story she calls Luke's Nurse. In 1998, my son was diagnosed with bone cancer at the tender age of 8. As sometimes happened, he came down with an infection, which meant he had to go to the hospital. He was there for about 2 weeks, and that's when something remarkable happened. One evening, I was sitting at his bedside quietly praying as he slept. A nurse came into the room to check his temperature, but I thought something odd about her. She was wearing an old-fashioned uniform of the type that would have been common in the 1940s. The nurse looked at me and noticed that I had a Bible. She said that she was a Christian and would like to pray for Luke's healing. I had never seen this odd nurse before and never saw her again at the hospital. My son was fully healed of the infection and is now completely free of cancer. I believe that nurse was my son's guardian angel coming down to give us some hope. If there wasn't something off, why would she have been wearing a 1940s nurse uniform? Bianca Gardner from Addington, South London. I gotta say, I love angel stories. They're always so very simple and don't require a shred of proof. These things just happen and can be just as easily explained as not. Could have been an eccentric nurse or an angel. It doesn't really matter, and the results are the proof. Thank you for your story, Bianca. I personally think it was an angelic visit. Our last story comes from Dennis Hammond from Roswell, New Mexico. Nope, I don't make this stuff up. Dennis says he's lived in Roswell his entire life and has come to the conclusion that everyone thinks that anyone that comes from here is a liar or crazy. He adds, "I really don't care because it's a strange place in more ways than one." He calls his story At Odds with the Desert. In the summer of 1974, I was sitting in my broken truck in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert. I was in northern Mexico at the time and about 10 miles from the border. Not a place you want to be these days, but in the 70s, things were different. I was looking for artifacts and other things that I might sell in my shop to the thousands of alien tourists that come to Roswell each year. This trip had been a good one, and I was on my way back to New Mexico when the radiator blew. I didn't have enough water to survive and refill the radiator, so I repaired my truck and sat down to wait. After a few hours, I saw a set of lights heading towards me. It was getting along toward evening, and I thought I would finally get some help. As the lights came closer, they suddenly split into two and went straight up into the sky in two different directions. The rate of speed was unbelievable. They reformed high in the sky and then disappeared. A few minutes later, a second set of lights came towards me. This, however, at a slow rate and following the roadway. It was a car, and they had plenty of water to share. I returned home safely with, hopefully, an amazing story to tell. Dennis Hammond, Roswell, New Mexico. Well, Dennis, I would say that amazing covers it. We've had so many stories from New Mexico now that I am of the full belief that this place truly is the land of enchantment. Our main story for this week comes from the radio series Dimension X. It was from 1950, and you have to remember what our views were of space at that time. Science fiction was huge back then, and I believe that much of what we have today are things that they thought of in these old stories. Our tale is about just what might be out there in deep space. Here we are in 2019, and we still really are no closer to knowing. But at least we can make better guesses. The title of the tale is No Contact, and it first aired on NBC on April 29th, 1950.
Adventures in Time and Space, told in future tense. Dimension X. Can you predict what will come in 100 years? Or in 10? Or in the next minute? Can you see beyond the known dimensions of time and space into the unknown, Dimension X? It was in the year of 1982 that spacemen first discovered the Great Galactic Barrier. In the past 10 years, rocket travel to the moon and the nearer planets had become commonplace. And then men fixed their sights on a more distant star, the remote planet known as Volta. 5 exploratory ships went out, and none came back, each in turn disappearing mysteriously at the same vanishing point, an invisible wall somewhere in the vast outer reaches that became known as the wrecker of spaceships, the galactic reef. And yet, the explorers refused to admit defeat. It was on June the 2nd, 1987, that the rocket Star Cloud made ready for takeoff, the sixth to attempt to crack the barrier and win through to Volta.
Now hear this. Condition blue. 1 minute till blast off. Now hear this. Condition blue. 1 minute till blast off.
Bridge to nav control.
Navigation, Collier.
This is Captain Thorson. Ready, Lieutenant?
We're ready, Captain. The course is in the integrator for takeoff at 1200 hours.
All right, stand by for acceleration. Bridge to engine room. Fire up your rocket chambers. Take off at exactly 1200 hours. I'll read you off. 30 seconds. 29. 28. 27. 26.
Condition red.
Hold it. Revoke all orders. Who turned in that alarm?
We've uncovered a stowaway, sir.
Stowaway where?
Hiding in sickbay. Dr. Spitzlin found him.
Have him brought up to the bridge. Engine room. Kill your rockets. Stand by.
Thorson, this is Colonel Harrison in ground control. What's holding you up?
Trouble.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you? There's stowaway aboard.
Stowaway?
Yes, I thought your men were supposed to police this base. What's the matter
All
with
right, Captain, take it easy.
you? You know what this delay can do to us, don't you? 1 minute late at takeoff can throw us 1,000,000 miles off course. We'll have to reintegrate the whole works.
Well, look, how long do you think it'll take?
Don't bother me for a while. I'm busy here. Stupid idiot. Come in.
Here's your stowaway, sir.
Now, court martial. Charlie.
Can you use a good radio man, Skipper? Oh, I see you two have met. Met? The skipper and me made 50 trips to the moon together. Didn't we, Captain?
Charlie, if you wanted to come along, why didn't you volunteer?
I did, Skipper. They turned me down.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, acceleration bends. They said my arteries wouldn't stand another trip.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But they're wrong, sir. I got one more good trip in me. Now, listen, Captain. You know these green kids don't know the first thing about space radio operation. You put a man like me on, and I'll be getting you bedtime stories from Mars.
Well, you know the regulations as well as I do, Charlie. I can't take you much as I'd like to.
Colonel Harrison will murder me for this.
I'm sorry, Charlie. I have to put you aground. Tell you what, Charlie. I'll ask Harrison to put you on his ground radio contact. It'll seem as if you're right here with us.
He won't do it, sir.
He better. I'll have him busted to corporal for letting you sneak aboard. You'll be better off, Charlie. Paulison.
Yes, sir.
I'm sending a man down from the bridge. Put him aground. Give him time to clear the launching platform.
Yes, sir.
So long, Charlie. Sorry.
Well, good luck, Skipper.
I thought you were going to have him drawn and quartered.
Been anybody else, I would have, Smitty. But Charlie, well, Charlie's kind of special. He's been with me since my first command, when we began the regular run to the moon. If he wanted to come along this time, well, it's only through loyalty to me.
You know, Lewis, I didn't realize it before, but you're almost human.
Navigation. Lieutenant Collier.
Nav control, Collier.
Lieutenant, how badly we fouled up. Can you recalculate the course, or shall I cancel the takeoff?
I've already plotted a new course on the integrator, sir.
Oh, that's quick work. Are you sure?
Positive, sir.
All right, Collier. Putting it in your hands. We'll blast off from your signal.
Lewis, isn't that a lot of responsibility for a young green officer?
Yeah, but if he can't do his job, I'd rather find out now than at the galactic barrier. Bridge to engine room. Ready your rockets. Prepare to blast off on navigator's signal. How are we doing, Collier?
Coming on the bearing, sir. 4, 3, 2, 0. We've intersected the course vector.
That's good work, Collier.
Course corrected, sir. Ready to go into atomic overdrive anytime you say.
All right, stand by. Now hear this. Prepare for maximum acceleration. Bridge to engine room. Kill your rockets.
Rockets out.
Fire up number 1 cyclotron.
Number 1 ready.
Fire up number 2.
Number 2 ready.
Engineering, withdraw your dampening rods.
Fission chamber ready. Blast tubes are clear.
Ready. Take it on overdrive.
How are we doing, Collier?
On course, sir. She's running hot and true.
Well, my compliments, Lieutenant. This job would have done your father credit. He was the best navigation officer I ever saw.
Thank you, sir.
Start your gyros, put her on robot control. All right, the ship is yours, Mr. Collier. If you need me, I'll be in Dr. Smithson's office.
Yes, sir.
Thank young Collier for that. Chip off the old block.
Oh, you knew his father, huh?
Matter of fact, I knew him very well. First-rate spaceman.
Is he the one who,
Yeah, he was lost in the galactic barrier on the second ship we sent out to Volta.
Louis, just what do you think this galactic barrier is?
Your guess is as good as mine, Doc. All I know is that 5 ships have gone into it, and none of them have come back out.
You think it's an it. How about Mestrovic's theory that it's a time warp in space, but that the ships reach it and slip into another dimension?
I think that's rubbish. My theory is that the galactic barrier is nothing more than a radioactive layer of some kind.
What makes you say that?
Well, we know that radar signals bounce off it like they were hitting an invisible glass wall. And we know it destroys our ships and our crews in some way. There's no other logical explanation.
What makes you think we can get through it?
Because we're ready for it. The others weren't. Entire hull is completely shielded with lead. We can crack through any radioactive cloud ever detected. Besides, we're equipped with some new UHF radio devices that should enable us to maintain radio contact with Earth. Nothing can happen. Absolutely nothing.
Who are you trying to convince, Louis?
Myself, I suppose. Smitty, 5 ships are missing, and men like Prentice and Margetson and young Collier's father. I'm tired of seeing good men fed into that meat chopper.
Then why are we going?
We haven't any choice, Smitty. We're in a race. Kind of race where men and ships are expendable.
Well, at least it won't be boring. I'll have to play physician morale builder and mother substitute for 112 slightly nervous men.
Your morale doesn't sound too good, Doctor.
As morale officer, I can state without fear of contradiction. It's terrible. And something tells me that as we approach that galactic barrier, I'm not going to be alone.
Hello, Earth. Hello, Earth. Captain Thorson of the Star Cloud calling Earth. Star Cloud to Earthbound. Can you read me?
Hello, Star Cloud. Hi, Captain.
Charlie. Well, I see they haven't court-martialed you yet.
No, sir. Thanks to you.
Well, Charlie, it's good to hear you. You can read us the funny papers on Sunday morning.
Right.
How's the signal?
Strong. Clear as a bell.
All right, here's our log report for Colonel Harrison. Ready?
Shoot.
June 2nd, 1987. 4 weeks out from Earth, running true, no radiation, operation normal, still making our approach to the galactic barrier. That's all, Charlie. See you later.
Good luck, Captain. I sure wish I was with you.
How's the morale, Smitty?
Well, the men know we're getting closer to the barrier. They're beginning to show a little tension, Louis.
How's their physical condition? Any sickness?
About half the crew has come down with space blues.
Badly?
Oh, same as usual. Lips and hands with a bluish cast. Eyes sensitive to infrared.
I don't know. When I first started flying these tin cans, nobody ever heard of space blue.
Well, there's a new theory that is caused by the terrific acceleration of these atomic overdrive ships. The change in gravity affects the circulation.
What do you think?
Oh, I think it's psychosomatic. I've noticed that the same men who get space blues under tension on a ship tend to get blue coloration back on Earth when they're upset. I guess it's an occupational disease of space navigators.
You think it's just nerves, then?
I don't know. But young Collier has a bad case. I think it's tension from overwork.
Maybe he needs some vitamins.
Louis, when will you realize that vitamins are not a panacea for all the troubles of mankind?
Come in. Oh, Lieutenant Collins.
Sir, I understand you've relieved me from duty.
Dr. Smithson says that you aren't looking very well. I'm giving you a rest.
I feel perfectly able to continue, sir.
Your lips are as blue as Minnetonka.
I'd like to remain at my post, Captain.
Don't be foolhardy, Lieutenant.
I'm not being foolhardy, sir. I have a special personal reason for wanting this expedition to reach Volta.
Your father?
Yes, sir.
You think he might still be alive?
I have to find out what happened, sir.
I think I understand. Very well, Collier. Report back to duty. What's the reading, Paulson?
We're getting a +5 radar bounce now. It's coming off the barrier almost as fast as we send it out.
What's the interval?
0.3 of a second. Shortening steadily. At this rate, we'll hit the wall in the next few minutes.
All right, alert the crew. Sound general quarters.
Now hear this. Condition red. We are now approaching the galactic barrier. All hands to stations. All radiation detectors to be fully manned. Full security will prevail until further notice. That is all.
Paulson.
Aye, sir.
Radar bounces up to +6. We better try to make final contact with Earth. Spark's still trying to raise the base?
Yes, sir, but he's not having much luck. There seems to be some interference. That's the radio room now. Yes? You've got him? Cut in the bridge speaker. The captain will take it from here.
Hello. Star Cloud to Earthbound. Can you hear me, Earth?
Hello, Skipper. I can barely read you. We're getting heavy static from sunspots.
That's not sunspots. We're right on top of the galactic barrier. Stick with us, Charlie. We're switching to the automatic sender now, so you can track us in.
Okay.
If we crack the barrier and come through still in one piece, I'll try to get back to you on the high-frequency band.
Gotcha, Skipper. Don't worry. I'll be waiting.
So long, Charlie.
So long, Star Cloud.
We must be getting awfully close now, Captain. The echo's bouncing back so fast it's almost beating the signal.
When they coincide, hold onto your hat. That's when we run into the wall.
Any second.
Hold on.
Well, here goes nothing.
Here it comes.
Captain?
Why, nothing happened.
We made it. We made it, Captain. No radiation, no time warp, no nothing. The crew's gone crazy, sir.
Let them. They earned it. Say, Doc, can you break out a few bottles of snake bite serum for medicinal purposes?
I sure can, Liz.
This calls for a celebration. How's your morale now?
Couldn't be better. How's yours?
Condition
Hey, what?
red.
What
Radiation detected. Condition red. Radiation detected.
Good. Holy mackerel. Look at the needle on that indicator.
Paulson.
I see it, Captain. We're picking radiation like crazy.
What's it like?
It's a strong wave.
What kind is it?
I don't know. It's too long for a cosmic ray and too short for UHF.
All right, track it down. Triangulate it. Make it fast. I want a directional fix.
Yes, sir.
Engine room.
Yes, sir.
We're picking up radioactivity. Is it the fission chambers?
No leaks, sir.
Check your gauges.
Nothing here, Captain. Must be coming from outside.
Damage control.
Yes, sir.
Is our lead shield leaking radiation?
Haven't found anything yet, sir.
All right, keep at it. Paulson, how you doing?
I've got a fix, Captain.
Well, what is it?
I have to recheck my figures.
Well, hurry up.
The angle is correct, but I don't...
Come on, man, for Pete's sake.
It's right, sir.
What's right? Speak up. Where's the radiation coming from?
It's coming from inside this ship.
That's impossible.
No, sir. I've checked it twice.
Well, then, there's only one thing left to do. Paulson, get a Geiger counter. We're going to start combing the ship, inch by inch.
Ready, sir.
All right, turn it on now.
Yes, sir.
We'll check the atomic guns first. Cut through the officers' quarters to ordnance. Come on.
Wait a minute, sir.
What is it?
The signal's weaker now.
Let's go back. Hold it. Seems strongest right about here.
It doesn't make sense.
Whose cabin is it?
Lieutenant Collier's.
Collier?
It's probably down in nav control, sir.
Try the door.
That's not locked, sir. It's in here, all right. Listen to that counter. Strongest over here.
Open that wall cabinet.
It's locked.
Smash it. All right, shut off the Geiger counter. What do you make of this, Paulson?
It looks like some sort of portable transmitter, sir. Must be foreign manufacture. I don't recognize the calibration symbols at all. Never seen anything like it.
Which raises a small question. What is Lieutenant Collier doing with a transmitter in his cabin?
I don't know, sir.
Well, I intend to find out, Paulson. Get down to nav control. Bring Collier up to the bridge, on the double.
Well, hadn't we better find some way to shut this thing off first?
I know a way. Collier, I'm going to ask a few simple questions, and I want a few simple answers.
Yes, sir.
What were you doing with the transmitter in your cabin?
Transmitter, Captain?
You know nothing about it?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you recognize these calibration symbols?
No, sir.
Can you think of how it might have been placed in your cabin without your knowing it?
No, sir. Unless someone came in while I was on duty.
Would that have been possible?
Why, I suppose if someone had a key...
I found your cabin door unlocked.
Well, I meant a key to the wall cabinet.
I didn't say the wall cabinet.
Well, sir,
You what, Lieutenant? How could you have known it was in the wall cabinet?
I just assumed.
Lieutenant Collier, I find it hard to believe you would lie. Having known and respected your father and having observed the way you handled your job. However, I intend to get to the root of this thing. May I have your wristwatch, Lieutenant?
Sir?
Your wristwatch.
Yes, sir.
Paulson, turn on that Geiger counter.
Yes, sir.
Hold this watch next to it.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Lieutenant, if you hadn't any close contact with that transmitter, how do you explain the radioactivity of this watch?
I don't, sir.
I think you'd better. To whom were you sending those signals?
Condition red! Condition red!
There's your answer, Captain.
What is this, Collier?
Alien spaceship approaching! Alien spaceship approaching!
Sound battle stations. Collier, who's aboard that ship? All right, now talk, man.
Very well, Captain. My mission seems complete.
Your mission? Are you admitting that you're an agent of a foreign power?
I am stating it.
What nation?
No nation, Captain.
What?
I am an agent of the Voltan government.
The what?
The government of the planet of Volta.
You're crazy.
Are you so stupid that you think your people are the only ones who can invade another planet?
What do you mean?
We've had agents operating on Earth since 1945.
I don't believe you.
What do you think happened to those 5 ships, Captain? Where do you suppose we got our information, your language, your culture, family background?
But your appearance, you look...
Like Commander Collier? Is that so surprising, Captain? We had a living model.
I ought to kill you.
That would be very foolish. I would advise you to surrender without delay.
Alien ship now coming in ordnance range.
I'll deal with you later, Collier. Paulson.
Sir?
Put this man in irons. Take him away.
Don't worry, sir. We'll take good care of him. Carpenter! Robinson!
Gunnery.
Gunnery, Richardson.
What's the range?
10,000 meters. They're closing fast.
Put your guns on radar tracking.
Tracking. Coming on a burn.
Fire. Fire. Richardson, you hear me? Fire. What's the matter down there? Did you hear me? Richardson, answer me.
It's no use to shout, Captain.
Collier.
Yes, Captain.
How'd you get loose? Where's Paulson?
Lieutenant Paulson is dead.
All stations. Lieutenant Collier has escaped. Seize him, man.
Don't waste your breath. Your men can't hear you, Captain.
What?
Those still alive are my men.
You're lying.
No, Captain. Every ship that has ever left Earth was controlled by a Voltan crew.
That's impossible. Those were hand-picked men.
Hand-picked by us.
I don't believe you.
Then why not call for help?
Carpenter, Robinson, Haley, report. Carpenter, Robinson.
You see, Captain, it is quite useless. I would advise you to sit very quietly and do nothing.
It isn't possible. They can't all be dead. Smitty! Dr. Smithson! Smitty, what have they done to you? Oh, those dirty... Don't talk, Smitty.
Closer. Not much time. Lewis. Space blues.
Space blues. What is it, Smitty? What are you trying to tell me?
All men with space blues. Voltan.
Here, let me help you, Smith.
No, Lewis. Get message back to Earth. Voltan. 5th column. Watch out for space blues.
Smitty. Hello. Star Cloud calling Earthbound. Please, God, let me get through before it's too late. Hello, Star Cloud to Earthbound. Come in, please.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, Charlie?
Skipper, is that you?
Are you getting my signal?
It's coming in a little louder now, Skip. Keep sending.
Thank God, Charlie. Now listen to me. Not much time. Get word to Colonel Harrison. Crew mutinied. Most of crewmen
you all right?
Charlie, this is serious. They'll be here any second now. Listen, they have a fifth column on Earth. They're planning to invade you.
You don't mean it.
Of course I mean it. Tell Harrison that they're posing as humans. You can detect them by space blues. You got that? Only Voltons get space blues. Charlie, do you hear me?
Space Blue. I get you.
Step back in, Charlie. I'm depending on you now. Warn everybody.
Captain.
They open the door. Go on, Charlie. Tell Harrison that...
Captain. Captain Thorson. Hello. Hello, Star Cloud. Come in.
What's the trouble, Sergeant?
We're just trying to raise the Star Cloud, Colonel.
Had any luck?
No, sir. No contact.
No contact?
No, sir.
Nearly an hour since they hit the galactic barrier. I don't understand why they haven't tried to get back a message.
No, sir. Neither do I.
All right. I'll take over for a while.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
You'd better go out and get yourself some coffee. Charlie, you look a little blue around the gills.
Boy, was that exciting and fun to listen to. Dimension X was an NBC radio program broadcast on an unsponsored sustaining basis from 1950 to 1951. That meant the radio stations paid for each episode as they went. The first 13 were broadcast live, and that proved to be unsuccessful. The remainder were pre-recorded. Fred Weehee and George King were the directors, and Norman Rose was heard both as announcer and narrator. I hope that you enjoyed this little time capsule. They truly are insight into our fast becoming distant past. You guys said you liked them, and here are a few more old-time radio commercials to make you smile just a bit. The first one is a classic for Chiquita Bananas from the 1940s.
Hello, amigo. I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say bananas have to ripen in a certain way, and when they're flecked with brown and have a golden hue, bananas taste the best and are the best for you. You can put them in a salad, you can put them in a pie, any way you want to eat them. It's impossible to beat them, but bananas like the climate of the very, very tropical equator. So you should never put bananas in the refrigerator. To have bananas that are fully ripe, you must be absolutely sure to take them home and let them ripen at indoor temperature.
Oh, sure.
This next classic radio commercial for Post Toasties was used as a sponsor fill-in for variety shows or news programs.
We toast them crisp, we toast them light, you can tell by the taste we toast them. They're a tasty treat, so good to eat, delicious and light from toasting. Toasties.
And you know what? We like 'em.
Our last one is a classic commercial from Starkist Tuna. Later, these would transition to television, and to this day, poor Charlie still can't get himself into a Starkist can. Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. What you watching?
Ballet.
Oh, how is it?
Too soon to tell. So far, it's been nothing but dancing. But I'll watch it anyway, to show Starkist my good taste.
But Charlie, Starkist don't want tuners with good taste. Starkist wants tuners that taste good.
Hey, that's for me.
Sorry, Charlie. Only good-tasting tuna get to be Starkist. Good-tasting 100% prime fillet.
This is good tasting tuna.
Get Starkist tuna.
Note the name. Starkist.
Growing up. We've all had to do it, or at at least are trying to work on it. Some of us may never really accomplish it, and for others it is faded away too soon. Tom Williams, well, he's a lucky man. He lives in Berlin, Germany, was raised in Alabama, and sends in these tales from his youth. On Growing Up This Time, Tom takes us on another journey back through time in a special tribute to his parents he calls Growing Up.
And finally, dedication to my parents. Sometimes there wasn't enough food in the house. Grits and butter was a staple for breakfast, and more than was needed for one meal was made, and the remainder would be put in the refrigerator for the next meal, not necessarily for breakfast. Mom would later remove it from the refrigerator and slice it into equal portions and then fry the slices of grits in a skillet and pour homemade brown gravy made from water and flour over it. And we had a feast. For the first time ever, something called a TV dinner came out on the market, and I told Dad one day, "That's something I'd like to try. Just came out." He looked at me and Wiley replied, "We can't get that stuff." And I said, "But why, Dad?" And he grinned and leaned back in his favorite chair and said, "We don't have a TV." That was Dad's humor, by the way. And those TV dinners, of course, I found out later, were just awful in their first production. Additionally, there were more times where we had industrial cans of food, these large cans that were produced for restaurants and such. But we'd buy them without the labels because they were removed by water or damage or something like that, and we would get extra cheap cans of these, whatever was in it. It was very cheap. We never knew what was in the can, so Mom at mealtime would take a can from the cupboard and shake it several times and give us her judgment as to the contents. It was sort of a contest. Is she right or is she wrong? She got very good at it. Once in a while she misjudged, and upon opening it would find only maybe pears or peaches. We couldn't afford to open another can to try our luck, so that would be our meal for the evening. No matter what we had, she made us clean our plates, and she would remind us that there were others who had it worse. I can remember her very words, "You better clean your plate, because there's a little boy in China who's hungry and would love to have your leftovers, while they would even lick your plates." I always thought that maybe the little Chinese girls had it better. Why was it always a Chinese boy? I never said so because Mom would think I was getting smart with her. One thing, though, we never went to bed hungry, even if it was just brown gravy on toast for supper. Later on in the military, I couldn't understand why my buddies complained about the food. What fools, I thought. It's food. You're not hungry. To conclude, I would like to thank my parents. Yes, my dad would sometimes take a day off from work, and shortly afterwards we would have to move because we couldn't pay the rent. I would come home after school, and there was a truck that he had borrowed in the front yard, and they were diligently moving what few pieces of furniture we had out of the house. "But what about school?" I would say to Dad. And he'd reply, "Well, maybe they won't miss you," and laugh. I never knew if they did or not. I've been asked many times which school did I attend in Mobile, and I always replied, "You name it, I've been there." Now in the autumn of my years, I realized how hard his job was at the shipyard as a welder. On 100-degree days, he would crawl into pipes, sometimes only wide as his shoulders and large enough just to get his equipment in, and he would weld these pipes together. People told me years later that he was so good that he could weld two pieces of metal together, smoother than a baby's bottom. Then there were the times when he came home with badly burned eyes from the torches that were near him, and Mom would put what she called a poultice of grated potatoes over his eyes, and somehow this would work. If it worked well, he was out the next day, on his way back to work. That is, if the old car would start. So I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, that in my childhood oblivion and never considered the true facts of life about Dad and our condition. Here's to you. As parents, you did what you knew best. May I say to that child in China, I hope you're doing well and have had caring parents such as we, who loved each one of us equally. Sincerely, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I remember TV dinners quite fondly. Back in the day, my parents would do a date night of sorts. When they did, it was one of my favorite times because it meant it was TV dinner night. We kids would each get our favorite. Mine was, well, I'm not sure what you called it, but it was a icky mashed potato thing with peas on the side and something for meat in what appeared to be a red sauce of some sort. I loved it. It was like prime dinner in 10 easy minutes. How about that? Well, it is my sad duty to inform you that this is Tom's last story, at least for the foreseeable future. Tom is taking a break, but has not ruled out a comeback. I'm planning on putting all of Tom's stories together in one place on the blog site. I'll keep you informed as to when I get that done. To Tom I say, thank you, my friend, for all the wonderful stories that you have told us. It has been a pleasure to play them all, and I hope one day that you decide to share more of your stories. I hope you know what it has meant for us to hear your wisdom and share what the South was like in times past. I want you to know, Tom, that you are the best, you are respected, and you will always be my friend. Thank you, Tom. Well, we close this podcast with a big thank you to Darren Bass, Gladys Demure, Bianca Gardner, Dennis Hammond, and Tom Williams. Your contributions to the show were amazing. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, just head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you'll find everything you need. Want to help the show? Please leave reviews and feedback wherever you listen to the program. It really does help us to grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.